Well, just look at them there, John. Look at them. They're just floating. They're just floating there above Kerbin.
Look at him.
And one guy, he's upside down. He's upside down. He's like, I don't blink at all. Hey, welcome everybody to the Super Awesome Video Game Show here on Rage Select. I am Jeff.
I'm John.
And hey, we're going to try something a little different this week. So rather than
going back to maybe our roots, someone would say?
Some might say. I mean, when we started the Super Awesome Video Game Show, we did the Dark Souls tutorials, and we thought about doing that, but I had a hard time coming up with another game that would be good to tutorialize. But I've got one. I've been playing some Kerbal Space Program, and John, this is a game that I feel is a lot like the Souls series in that it demands a lot from you, but you get a hell of a lot
in return.
In return. So, what we're going to do today is we're just going to do a little bit of it's going to be kind of a let's see. Let's just switch this over. Kind of just an introduction to what is Kerbal Space Program and
some tips and tricks for playing it.
Yeah, a little bit. I just kind of want to go over a lot of this because when I first started playing Kerbal Space Program, I didn't understand what in the goddamn holy hell was going on. So let's start with the basics. This is your base, right? So it is composed of several different things. You've got your runway. This is your spaceplane hangar. This is your rocket hangar, which is the most important part. You've got your liftoff site. This is, let's see, what is this? This is where you are going to get quests, essentially quests. This is your tracking station. This is your science lab. This is where you get your Kerbins, and this is your administration building.
Okay.
So this is career mode. Like, if you just want to play Kerbal Space Program, you can go into sandbox mode where you've just got unlimited everything. But this is going to kind of give you a little bit more challenge to the point where, I mean, because you can just go into the sandbox mode and just pick out a pre-made rocket and shoot it into orbit, and boom, you're done, right? Well, almost. Career mode is entirely different in that you have 3 different resources that you're going to be dealing with up here. This right here is funds, this right here is reputation, and this right here is the almighty science. Science is used to basically get upgrades. Funds are used every time you build something. You got to take into account the amount of money that you're spending on it. And reputation is used to do some administrative stuff. I'm not super big into that. The other thing I want to just make perfectly clear is if you already play Kerbal Space Program, you're probably going to get nothing whatsoever out of this video. So also, I would like to just start by saying, everybody, this is an experiment. Let us know in the comments. Did you like this? Do you want to see more of it? There's a lot of Kerbal Space Program, and we are sure as fuck not going to get through it today. So before we start, let's go over just what these particular little buildings are, right? The tracking station is the way that you basically can keep track of the entire world and universe. When you leave space debris or satellites here, you can come back to them. And in some cases, you might end up putting like a Kerbin in orbit, like in a space station, and then going back to the ground control. And then if you need to go back, you can switch between different missions up here.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting, just before we even get started here, that this is Kerbin. This is the place where we're starting. We have the moon, and we have Minimus, are the 2 satellites surrounding Kerbin. But if we continue to roll back the right mouse button, you're going to see that we have an entire freaking solar system to deal with. Right now, and for today, we're going to be dealing with very much just like right around Kerbin. Now, the next thing that you probably need to know quite a bit about is science. And as far as I can tell, science is this is going to be kind of what I end up working towards an awful lot, right? Different things will give you science points, and those science points are used to unlock individual rocket pieces and construction parts and things like that. I don't use the Space Center all that much, just because I usually use just Jebediah Kerman the entire time. But here you can get different people. You can see they're split into pilots, engineers, and scientists.
Yes.
So these do different things. Like a scientist can reset certain science experiments to give you more science. Engineers can repack certain parts. So we'll get into that a little bit later. The administration building allows you to basically set up these strategies. I'm going to go ahead and skip over that for the moment because those are a little bit later. We're also going to skip space planes almost entirely because that's not really the focus of what's going on right now. But then we have probably one of the other really important buildings. This is mission control. And basically you have these are quests, right? So you pick these up, and you can see that for every quest, you have a certain amount of time to do it. You get an advance in money, and when you complete it, you get a certain amount of money, you get a certain amount of science, you get a certain amount of reputation, and if you discard it or you fail it, then you lose that. So right now, we should be able to take two things. You can see that as you upgrade this particular facility, you're going to get more contracts. But we're going to start by just getting that, and we're going to say launch a vessel, right? That's two. Those are real easy. It's also worth noting that every one of these buildings can be upgraded. And when you right-click on them, you can see this is the cost to upgrade, and it's going to tell you down here what you get. So when we upgrade Mission Control, we're able to take on 7 contracts instead of just 2.
Okay.
I usually get the launch pad pretty quickly because this is the amount of tonnage that you can put on. You see it goes from 18 tons to 140 tons.
Oh, wow.
And it's really cheap to do. But let's start by completing our first couple quests. And first thing we're going to need is we're going to need the rocket. So this is where you're going to spend an awful lot of your time in this construction screen. And over here you can see that it's divided into a bunch of different types of pieces. Pretty much every single rocket that you build is going to start with some sort of place for a Kerbal to sit. So it's right-click to turn around here, scroll wheel goes up and down, shift plus scroll wheel goes in and out. So we're going to start with our module, right?
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to strap an engine to it because we need to make a launch. We don't really have a whole hell of a lot else now because we haven't done any upgrades yet. But we're also going to go ahead and we're going to put a parachute on the top. That way,
when they come down,
we don't want them to fully die.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go ahead and throw a little mystery goo here on the side.
Because why not?
Mystery, this whole area, science, is how you basically you do experiments with the things that are in this category, and that's how you earn more science. So here we go. We've got probably the most basic rocket of all time.
It's an engine,
pod. Yep, that's it. So you can see down here at the bottom left-hand corner how much it costs for this. You can also look at a bunch of other different things. One of the things that I always like to do is if you hit this button, it shows you the contracts. So this says, recover or transmit any science experiment data from Kerbal to achieve this goal. So, and then down here, before we launch, we want to see that these are our stages on the bottom right-hand corner. So right now, you can see that we've got our rocket and our parachute in the same staging. What that means is that when we activate this stage, it's both going to launch the rocket and the parachute. So we want to make a new stage, and we want to put rocket first, then parachute. Right? Easy going.
Is that rocket first, then parachute?
Yep, that's the rocket. At 1, 0, it goes in descending order. So 0 is the last one.
Oh, okay.
Or if you want, it goes from the bottom of this. Like once you get to big multi-stage rockets, it goes from the bottom to the top.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We've got a rocket.
Something to bring up.
Yep. We're going to hit the launch button, and we're not going to deal with anything else right now except for getting our science and launching our rocket. Ready? So the first thing that we need to do is get the science goal done. So we're going to go ahead and observe the mystery goo, which is going to give us 3 science. We're going to go ahead. So when you have a transmitter, you can transmit your science data, but that takes both power and you lose a lot of times. So you can see here that if we recover the science data, we get 3 science. If we transmit it, we only get 0.9 science. So we're going to keep that data. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to do a crew report, which is more science. We're going to keep that as well. All right, so now that we've got our science taken care of, we need to launch our first vessel.
I appreciate that you did the science before you left the ground.
Yes. Well, we might just perish. So I'm not going to go. We're going to take the controls a little bit at a time. We're not even going to mess with the nav ball right now. All we're going to do is, you can see up here, this is our altitude, and this is what part of the atmosphere we're in. And we're just going to go real easy, right?
Yep.
Spacebar takes us through the different things. We're going to hit the spacebar. Bam. Uh-oh. Now, as you can see, because we have the science pod on one side, we are listing.
Heavy.
Yep. And that's all that we get. Now, when you're flying, one thing to note is that this parachute icon, I believe this is as of update 1.5 that came out in November of last year, is red when it is safe. It is not safe to open. Yellow when it's partially safe to open, and regular when it's regular. So we're about 2,000 meters from the ground. It is totally safe to open right now. I'm a little bit of a daredevil, so I'm going to let it I'm going to let us go down a little bit further.
Okay.
We'll pull the nav ball up because we can actually see our speed here. We don't want to get much over 250. Pop our parachute, and it should slow us all the way down. And this is going to take a minute, so I'm going to use another feature. The greater than and less than signs basically make time go faster. So if we time warp up, this is going at 4x time so that we don't have to wait for this thing to all the way hit down to the ground. So bop, 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 bop. Done.
All right, done.
Yep. And let's go ahead. When you're down on the ground, if you come up here, you can hit recover vessel. That's going to pull in your vessel and all the parts. And boom, we did it. So we got 18 science. And we got, what else do we get? We got some money too. We got 117,000
Nice.
bucks. We got, this is from the recovered parts, which we'll get to later. But yeah, we got a bunch of stuff. We succeeded in getting all our goals. Jebediah Kerman got 1 experience point. So we can go ahead up here and we can check off these things. We're also going to see that we've got a bunch of records. We've broken our speed record. We launched a vessel, broken some more speed records, and landed at a distance. Broke altitude records. So we got a bunch of different things for those. All right. So the first thing that we need to do if we're going to get anywhere in this world
Upgrade
is
our science.
buy some stuff. So this is going to be, these are some science pods, some stacked decouplers, and this one is some bigger boosters, some fuel, and do we have enough for, no, okay, so we don't have enough for any of the other stuff. General rocketry is kind of probably where we want to go next. So let's see what new contracts we have. I'm not any good at these focus surveys, so we're going to go ahead and test.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, what are the focus surveys?
Basically, you have to go to a specific point on the planet and then do a crew report when you're at that point at this particular thing.
Okay.
It's easier to do with a space plane than it is with a rocket because you don't want to be going Mach 2 sideways across the planet.
I get it. Yeah. Okay.
So let's try escape the atmosphere, right?
You think we can do it?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's give it a shot. So let's go back, and we're going to do a little bit more rocketry this time. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to... Okay, so we don't have... All right, so let's go ahead and... we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a stack decoupler on here. Now, this basically just disconnects this top part from anything else, right?
Seems logical.
And we're going to take an engine. So right now we've got... So there are 2 different kinds of engines in Kerbal Space Program. This is a solid fuel booster. This is basically fire and forget, right?
Okay.
You can't control the throttle on this thing. You hit it and it goes, and you have very little control over it. It just goes.
Okay.
The second, this is a liquid fuel booster. So solid fuel boosters are basically, when the space shuttle takes off and then they just let the stuff fall off of it? That's a solid fuel booster. Liquid fuel boosters, you actually attach a fuel tank and then put the booster on it. So this is able to be controlled very much through thrust. This is not. Now, we don't have any actual decoupling for this, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to build a super simple rocket here, and we're going to put a few fins on it so that hopefully it doesn't list or fall over.
Okay, yeah.
Now, when you're building stuff, down here in the bottom left-hand corner are 2 of my favorite things. So this first one basically lets you snap to a certain thing. You can see how it's only going to certain areas instead of just wherever you want it to be. And then this one lets you double or triple it up, right?
So you can just evenly place them.
Right. So I'm going to put 3 of these on here, and then I'm also going to go ahead. I'm going to move the. So we've got this decouples, and then this ignites that booster, right? So I'm actually like to put those in the same. If you want more control, you can put them in different groups. But since as soon as we get done with that one, we're going to want to activate the next one. I'm just going to put them in the same group.
Yeah. Okay, I get that.
So this should be enough to escape the atmosphere.
I hope.
I'm not going to go into any Delta V at the moment, but we are going to look at a couple of new things as we make this particular boost. All right. So number 1, on our nav ball, on this side, you can see where the throttle is located.
Yeah.
So when we're dealing with something that's not a solid booster, we can throttle up, we can throttle down. You can hit Z for max throttle, X for 0 throttle. That's going to be incredibly important at a certain point. There's also, if you hit T, you can activate SAS, which is a stability system, which will try to auto keep your rocket going in the direction that you want it to go. It's not a fail-safe. You have to design a rocket that's going to be able to do that. Like if you just stack up a ton of stuff, no matter how much SAS you have on, it might flip over eventually just because it's so top-heavy.
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that, and then let's see what we can do about getting off of the planet. Launch! Go, Jebediah! Look how happy he is.
Yeah, he is excited.
So while this is happening, actually, I don't think this is going to be enough thrust. While this is happening, I can tell you that there are a couple of things that you have to take in consideration. Like, you see all the white stuff that's coming off of my ship?
Yeah.
That's drag. And the reason that's happening is because we are going way too fast. There is a certain amount of thrust. Like, you can see here that I'm going to take my thrust down until I'm actually losing thrust to try to keep an even acceleration curve happening.
Yeah.
Because if you're... Okay. Leaving the atmosphere of a planet is like 60% of the work of Kerbal Space Program.
Yes.
Always. If you're going too fast, you're hitting the atmosphere so hard that the drag is actually counteracting your thrust upwards. You're not doing a good job of distributing your thrust evenly, so you're not able to get high enough, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not going fast enough, then gravity is
We'll just
your...
pull you back down.
Yes, is your worst nightmare. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to see if I can't get an even... So I like to get it so that we're just thrusting up a little bit, and you can see we're almost out of fuel. Before we run out of fuel, I'm going to show you that this up here will actually, if you click on this, it'll stay open. It'll show you how much fuel you have, so you can do a little bit more direct fuel management.
Okay.
And then once that's done, we're going to go ahead and lose that phase. Now, actually, I think we're going to die, John.
Oh.
Because I think this pod probably doesn't have enough heat shields to deal with. You remember when you're coming back in from orbit?
Yeah.
How all the fire happens?
Are we actually in orbit? Or?
We're not in orbit. Oh, no, we're nowhere near orbit.
Yeah, I didn't think we were in orbit.
So this, if you hit the map button, you can go out to map. This is half of what you're looking for, right? So we can see that we're going up to 74,000 meters. Now, once you get above 70,000 meters, you can get into orbit, but don't even think about that right now. What we're actually looking to do is once we hit the tippy top of this orbit, now we can see that we probably have fulfilled our objective. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a crew report from up here just in case we're able to get back. That's another 5 science. And then I'm going to go ahead and speed up a little bit, and we can see, because one of two things is going to happen here. We're either going to die or we're not going to die. If we die, then we die. But...
Not poor Jebediah.
Well, no. If we... I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it that. If we die, we revert back to before we launched, and then we try it again. But
Well, it looks like you're going to be okay.
I don't know. We're coming in real hot here. Yeah, so we're under 20,000. If it flips over... Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, we might be able to slow down enough. It looks like we were slow enough when we were coming back through. And you can see right now that we're decelerating, like, rapidly.
Yeah.
We want to get under 250, I believe, before we can open our parachute. And see, it's red right now.
Yeah.
And there's 270 yellow, 250 regular. We got 1,500 meters left to go. Pop that parachute. All right, so there we go.
Oh.
And down to the ground. So there we go.
Whew.
We've just gotten
That was
way
harrowing.
up there.
That was tense.
Yep. Boop. And recover. So hooray! We did a second
We
mission.
did a thing.
Yep. And we've got enough science, I believe, to do a few more things. We also got enough money that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to upgrade the pad. And then let's see what kind of science we've got. We got enough for the general rocketry. Yes, yes, yes. 20. We got 13 left. I don't think that's enough for anything. What do we got here? Micro-landing strut, heat shields. I want those heat shields, so I'm going to do something that's a little tricksies,
Yeah.
which is I need more science, right?
Yeah.
So one of the nice things about when you start out Kerbal Space Program is that you don't actually have to take off to do all of your science work. You could just do your science on the ground because they've never... there's like 4 or 5 different biomes in on Kerbin, and as long as we just take that science for the first time here, we get a little bit more science. So we're going to go ahead and jump over here, and I want to get...
But you want to do the thing with the heat shields.
Yeah, I want to get both. I'm greedy. I want all of it. Because this goes up, like over here we have nuclear propulsion, which is what you're going to use to move between systems in the actual solar system.
Yeah.
So let's see about grabbing a few more of these things. Here we go. Let's do the TR-18 stack decoupler. And let's see. Let's do the thumper. Let's see. So you really want to make sure that you pay attention to what these things say. So this says test the thumper solid fuel booster in flight over Kerbin. So this test requires us to be between 18,000 and 25,000 meters at 440 to 590 meters per second. In the very beginning, it's pretty cool to always look for ones that that say, if you can find ones that say, like, test this on the ground, because you can just do it and be done with it right away. But let's see. I wonder, what kind of fuel tanks do we have at our disposal, John?
I don't know. What do we have?
Little ones. But wait, we got the thumper. Okay. We're going to try, let's see, what's in that next set real fast here. It's 18, and I've got 6. All right, let's just do a couple more, and we could probably finish this up. What do we got? Stack decoupler in flight, and how about solid fuel booster in flight? That's a very easy one right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and build our next one, our next little set of things. So parachute, boom. Let's go ahead and throw one of these heat shields on the bottom, just in case. And go with the Rockamax. Now, if I'm not mistaken, one of our things is to test the Mark 16 parachute over Kerbin. So the one that we currently have on top, this one, is the Mark 16 parachute. So I'm going to take these parachutes, the Mark II radials, and put them on the sides.
Okay.
So that we can test those. So that, because what's going to happen is when we test this particular parachute, if we do it on the way down, it's going to be a lot harder for us to make sure that we meet the speed requirements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test it on the way up and just let it rip off of the place, and then use the other two when we come back down again.
Oh, okay.
For this one, we need 65,000 to 70,000, going at 650. Okay, so we're going to probably just throw one of these big old solid boosters on, throw a few basic fins on it, and go. So one of the nice things about doing these particular tests is that if you bring open the little test thing here...
your launch pad got upgraded.
Yep, I totally did that. I'm also going to pull this Mark 16 down here. You can see when all of these things light up green that you are good to test them. So let's see if we can't do the two of these. Looking for 4,000. This might be a little bit too fast, which would actually bring in an interesting opportunity. Yes, it does. Okay, so at any point in time when you're flying, if you want to go back, you can just cut out of there and go back to vehicle assembly. One thing that I didn't know for a long time about these solid fuel boosters is you can a little bit control how much boost they're putting out by right-clicking, and you have a thrust limiter. So if we pull this down to, say, 70, we're looking to not be going too fast to do the stack decoupler test. So I'm trying to have our acceleration curve be a little bit slower so that we can get up to a higher speed before we try that test.
Did you forget to move your... Hopefully you moved the right one.
This one's both of them.
Oh, okay.
You know what? We're going to try it on the way back down. I'm going to see if we can catch it on the way back down.
Okay.
So I really want to get to a point where we can try to go into orbit, because that's like one of the most difficult things to do. But
So what is the thing with the decoupler thing that we're supposed to be doing?
just decoupling. The problem is that it needs to be at between 65,000 and 70,000 meters, and we need to be going at least 650. Now, here's the other reason that you don't want to be going super fast when you go up is that you can see that that was actually heating up my my fins there, and if those little meters got all the way down, they would explode.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm hoping, yep, it seems like we're shedding speed. Oh, man, we might be shedding a little bit too much speed. 650. We're trying to hit the goal, hit the altitude before our speed gets too low. If we can hit 65. There we go. That's it. Okay, decoupler, decoupled. Oop, decouple. Oh. I wonder why that didn't happen.
Is it because you went too high?
Ah, yep. Let's try that again.
So because you went past where you're supposed to decouple it.
Yeah. Now, you can time warp up. I don't know if they fixed this, but if you have a lot of parts on your ship and you do a time warp, the SAS won't be able to keep up with the time warp, and so your ship will wobble crazily and then fall apart.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's go 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So now our only hope is going to be if when we come down, if we're going to meet the requirements for the Mark 16 parachute.
All right.
So you kind of see what's going on here, right, John?
Yeah.
That this is, we're just right now kind of trying to fulfill enough things. How high did I manage to get there? Woo, 155. That's got to be a new record for the old Kerbals.
One giant leap for
Kerbal kind.
Kerbal kind.
So
Yeah.
let me talk about a couple of quick things that I didn't understand when you first start playing Kerbal Space Program. So whenever you look at this arc in your map, this is your apoapsis, which is the highest point in the curve that you're doing.
Yeah.
You also have a thing called the parapsis if you have an orbit, which is the lowest point. So those are just terms that are worth noting. Gravity is a pain in the ass.
Of course.
Unlike most other movies, television shows, video games, novels, etc., gravity really matters here. And like I said before, 60 to 70% of your effort at leaving Kerbin is just going to be escaping the gravity. And once you do, you can see that we did manage to escape up to 155,000 meters, but it still has a hold of us.
Yes.
Which is why the first thing that you want to do in Kerbal Space Program, your first big hurdle is orbit. And orbit is a real pain in the ass because an orbit is essentially forever falling without actually hitting a thing.
Yeah.
Right? We're looking for a sweet spot where we can keep going around and around and around forever, where we're escaped enough of the gravity in the atmosphere that
It's enough of the gravity of the atmosphere so that you're not hitting. You're missing the planet when it does pull you back.
Right.
But then it is actually still pulling you back.
see.
So that you're not just going off into space endlessly forever.
Right, because that will happen. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh
Did
shit!
you break the sound barrier? Oh God! No, Jebediah.
All right. So here's the thing, right? When you're coming back in and you're looking at your module to do what they call aero braking for you, you want to be coming back in at less of just a straight up and down angle and more of like a sideways angle. And actually, to this effect, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw an actual engine on this mother lover, Space Lord. And I'm going to do a little bit of deceleration. Now, one of the big things in Kerbal Space Program and in all rocketry is delta V. Do you know what delta V is, John?
I do not.
Okay. Delta V is a calculation that I am unable to do currently. But what delta V means is the rub of flying into space is this. In order to get into space, you need a lot of thrust. In order to generate that thrust, you need a lot of fuel. But every like unit of fuel that you bring with you is more weight, so you need more thrust to push that weight up. But now you need more fuel to drive the engines to make more thrust. So what you're looking to do is balance your thrust to weight ratio, and that's essentially what delta V is. You can look online for a relatively simple calculation, but like the way that they put it is add up all of your weight, multiply it by 10, and then divide by thrust, and if that is greater than 1, you have enough thrust to go. Now, as you can tell, it gets really tricky really quickly, because like for this particular rocket, we have the solid fuel booster, which calculates it to our delta V, right? We have the second booster, but that booster is only boosting the weight of the tippy top, and it's going into effect when we are higher up. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to work this time around.
It does not look like it's going to work because I think you are not high enough.
Not high enough, but we're also not fast enough. That's the main thing, is that we're slowing down too much. So anyway, I tell you what, let's just jump ahead. Let me see something real fast here. How much science do we need for this thing? And what exactly are we getting out of it? Nothing. And this is 45. This is the fuel. Tell you what, John. Was there a Rockamax decoupler test? No. Okay. Tell you what. Let's just do these one at a time. That way they'll be a lot easier. We know that this one works, kind of.
We just, need to not kill our Kerbal.
Yes. So I'm going to try to angle slightly. Now, you use the WASD and Q and E keys to basically move. You can see how I'm tilting a little bit to one side.
Yeah.
My goal here is to try to get my Kerbal out over the ocean, so that if he does come in hot
he's got
or hotter,
an ocean landing.
He's got a little bit more, ocean to cushion him on his way back down. So let's try moving. Now, as you can tell, when you're angling in this direction, you're actually exposing your rocket to more drag.
Yeah.
Because it's coming. I don't actually think that model is all the way in Kerbal Space Program, but what your real issue is with this particular way of launching is that you might flip. Is that if you push too far in one direction, you might flip your rocket over, at which point, bad. But what I'm really hoping here to do is just to get a more even acceleration. So, 64. Test complete. All right, so let's see if we can come back in without dying.
Which will be the trick.
And let's see about get a little science. Nope. So these pods, right, are really interesting little devices. Like this pod has, if we look at our fuel, you can see it has an electric charge to it.
Yeah.
And you know how I'm able to move this pod even though there's nothing attached to it? It's because it has a centrifuge in it that is moving it, but that takes electric charge. So right now we don't have the technology to be able to recharge. So we got to make sure that we don't overdo it. We also have monopropellant, which I don't think we actually are using without an RCS system. So in the movies when you see a spaceship doing something, and it's got the little like psh, 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 that's RCS system. It's how you make really minute moves. It's how you'll dock with like a space station, or how you'll move a Kerbal from one place to another in space. And I don't know about what that means. Sorry.
There's a lot of real science involved.
Well, that's the thing about Kerbal Space Program, if I can wax while we come down and maybe or maybe not die, is that I started playing Kerbal Space Program because everybody was like, oh my God, I love it. And I was like, fuck it, wait, you just build rockets, man. Because I thought it was like Minecraft is to like farming, right?
Yeah.
And then when I finally understood what it takes to actually create a viable rocket, like what it takes just to get in orbit in Kerbal Space Program, it's such a rewarding thing that I had to learn certain concepts about delta V, apoapsis, how to create this a type of orbit. Oh boy, I think that this might not be.
May not be good either.
2000. Come on. This is not safe, but I've got a lot of parachutes. So, okay. Hey, we did it. So let's splash down, take a crew report, and then see about that Mark 16 test, and then we can hopefully. We're about 35 minutes right now. My goal is to try to get us into orbit before we're totally done here.
Okay.
Because orbit is the most important thing. Hard to do the first time you do it, and it took me a long time to get comfortable doing it. There's a few different ways to do it, but we're going to go with like the most basic way humanly possible. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a crew report because it gives me a little extra science, and we're going to recover.
He's like, I'm doing okay.
He's like, I'm Jebediah Kerman.
I'm in the water. There's some leaks.
14. We need 4 more. So let's build. We're going to go with a. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to split our parachute into a different test group. And then we're actually going to take some regular engines this time around instead of the solid fuel engines so we can control our ascent. Now, when you look at these engines, right, these 3 are all solids, and these are liquid. And you can see that if you look at the numbers on this, that this has a max thrust of 200 kilonewtons, and this one has 168, right?
Yeah.
The main difference between the two of these is the reason this is called swivel is because it can actually move to change your
It's on a
heading.
swivel.
Yes. It's a really, really important engine. I use them all the time. The other one is more powerful, but I'd rather have one that is able to control the ship a little bit better. So, all right, let's see about what we're looking for. 4,000 to 9,000, 70 to 260. Let's turn on our SAS. Let's throttle all the way up. Let's go. Now we're going to try to use the variable speed to control our ascent a little bit better. I'm going to goose this down, way down. And we're going to look for just a more smooth profile going up, right? You can see that what I like to do is just goose down the throttle a little bit whenever you see it going up really quickly until it gets to this part where it goes down. Okay, so there we go. There's our test conditions met. Test done. And we can go... Let's just go out over the water. I always like going over the water. So you can see the way that the swivels. Now, what I'm doing right now is awful because the drag that we're getting from our upward momentum is just really screwing us. But here we go, going out over the water. We've used up all of our fuel. Let's go ahead and let that go. And you can see that our trajectory is probably very, sideways.
Yeah,
right? Instead of up. All right, but I think that if we can get that next set of things, that we probably have enough to try for an orbit. Like I said before, orbits are tricky. So I'm just going to let this get a little bit lower down. Lower. All right. Orbits are very tricky. Here are the basics of orbits, right?
Yeah.
All right, John, we got several different things. 1, we need a rocket that is appropriately staged so that we're shedding weight the entire way up.
Yes.
Okay? 2, we have to get to at least 70,000 meters up before we start to normalize our orbit in order to go into orbit.
Okay.
Right? 3, we're going to do a little thing called the gravity turn. So when you're launching a rocket, the last thing that you want to do... Oh, God damn it. I'm not there yet, am I? Oh, I have just enough. All right. The radial decoupler is the reason that we wanted this particular thing. Because you'll see in a second why that is.
All right.
Okay, so here we go. We've got our little rocket. Let's go ahead and pull some of this weight off. We've got our reentry vehicle. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to need some fuel, and we're going to need an engine to try to put us into orbit. Now, I don't think I've done this with this small of an amount of. There's actually, hold on. One of the best things that you can do when you're playing Kerbal Space Program, if you want to get a part that you don't have, is go and look and see if there's a thing that wants you to test a specific lead. No, it's a solid booster, swivel. No, they don't have it here.
Yeah.
Is see if there's a thing that wants you to test that, right?
Yeah.
What
What are you looking for?
Well, so there are there's a few different kinds of engines in this game. This one that we've got right now, these are like push you up off of Kerbin. They're very high speed engines and they're very fuel inefficient. They eat fuel all the live long day. There's another type of engine that we can get, which is a not super powerful in the atmosphere engine, but it is extremely fuel efficient. And that is great for pushing you into orbit because once you're not dealing with the atmosphere, you've got a lot more leeway as far as things go. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and which one is that one? Okay. Oh, that was from the parachute test that I was doing. Okay, so go ahead and pull this down. So we got parachute, we've got that one, we got these two, we got this one. But now for the most important thing, the reason that I wanted to get that other thing is the TT38K radial decoupler, which will allow us to put a bunch of solid fuel boosters on here and then decouple them. So I'm going to put these big thumpers on here, and then I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to throw some caps on them.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically start both the bottom engine and these at the same time. And then we're going to pop those, and then we're going to pop onto this other one. And hopefully, this will work.
Okay.
If it doesn't, we might make a quick cut, go over into creative mode, just show you so we don't have to do a bunch of busy work. But let's give it a shot. All right. First things first. We want to do what's called a gravity turn, right? So we know, John, that when we go to launch our ship, that if we don't do anything, it's going to basically go just like, it's hard to do this with a mouse, but it's going to come up in a very quick arc and then come back down again, right?
Yes.
What we want to do is we want to launch with a little bit more sophistication so that our arc, this is the way. Instead of going like this, we want our arc to be more like this, right? Because then when we get to the top of the arc, we're basically going to, okay, so let me describe. If we launch here and we have an arc that looks like this, right? When we get to our apoapsis, which we want to be at 70,000 feet, if we thrust directly sideways, right? That's going to extend that arc, and it's going to keep extending that arc until that arc goes all the way around and we have an orbit. Does that make a certain amount of sense?
Yes.
A little bit of sense?
It makes a lot of sense, actually.
Okay. So you can find people online that are going to tell you the exact time to do your... Oh, you know what? One more quick thing I want to do. I want to cut down the thrust on those thumpers so that we can get a little bit more time out of them. So what we're going to want to do is when we hit about 1,000 meters up in the air, right, we're going to want to start turning to one side. And we're going to want to try to end up by about 6,000 meters to 10 to 12,000 meters at about a 45-degree angle, right, instead of just going straight up. So let's turn on our SAS. I'm going to go ahead and throttle this to a third because I want to use it for steering, but I don't want to eat up all our fuel. And then let's go. 3, 2, 1, go! Now, this is actually going to be a much more controlled launch because I don't want to waste too much fuel. I probably could have had these at 70 instead of where they are right now, but let's just get going. And once we hit 1,000, we're going to start tapping the D key to start moving. You can see it on the nav ball down here. You're going to see it start to list a little bit. And we're looking to get to about 45. We don't want to turn too fast.
Yeah, because then you just flip over.
Because we don't want to flip it. But as we keep going up, we want to go. We want to keep trying to turn it a little bit, goose a little bit. I'd also like to do this while I still have some of my solid fuel left.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. 45. We're getting a little bit closer. Now, see, we're turning a little bit because I didn't put any stabilizers on here. In fact, we're turning a lot, so I'm going to hit the Q button to try to rotate us a little bit. Now, things should get a little bit easier once we lose the solid fuel boosters because they are a lot of weight to carry, right? So once we pop them off, then the second thing that I'm going to do is you can see that my speed is starting to get way up. So I'm going to go ahead and try to cut it down. Keep cutting it down. I'd like to stay at around 500. And I'm going to keep trying to get my gravity turn in to about 45. Right about there. Okay, so now what you want to do is...
Jedi looks to be having fun.
Yep, is we want to go out and we want to see what our apoapsis is. Okay, so our apoapsis is great. It's at 90 right now. So what we're going to want to do... This is way too much. I actually went up. That was a lot more power than I originally thought we were going to have. I'm going to move the nav ball down there so that my trajectory is right at about a little less, but right at about the horizon, right?
Okay.
So that's going to have us set sideways. You can see how we're moving right now.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to look at the apoapsis. Now, without actually, there's an upgrade that we'll do to one of the control centers that'll allow us to actually see our time until we hit the apoapsis.
Okay.
We don't have that right now.
No.
So we're going to have to eyeball this shit. But it's going to become fairly clear. Another thing that we can do here is you see this yellow circle is our kind of our projected thrust vector. So what we're looking for is when we get about to here. This is so eyeballing it. Normally you want to do within 30 seconds, at about 30 seconds to 25 seconds of hitting the apoapsis. You want to go back to thrust and see about just thrusting all the way. So let's go make it a little bit more. Normally you would want to do a bunch of the campaign stuff and get a bunch more upgrades and things before you do this.
But we're saying fuck that shit.
Yeah, fuck that shit. I'm an Astro Man. So I'm going to wait until we're just about there. I'm going to go for it. So now you can actually see what's happening to our orbit.
Oh, yeah, it's extending.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to want to keep an eye on the fuel, and we're going to want to keep extending that orbit, and you can kind of see what's going to happen here eventually, right?
Yeah.
Is that it's going to hit the other side. So the only thing that we have left to worry about is, do we have enough fuel left? Not sure why. Do we have enough fuel left? Because we're now going 1,400.
You say you're not sure why it exploded?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to tilt down a little bit. See how the apoapsis is getting away from us?
Yeah.
If we tilt down a little bit, it should kind of bring it back.
Oh, I think you got an orbit going, don't you?
Nope. Okay, see, that's what we're looking for is the parapsis. Once we see a parapsis come, orbit completed. So now we have an apoapsis, which as we know is the highest point of our orbit, 97,000 meters, and we have an apoapsis of 76,000 meters, or a parapsis of 76,000 meters. The big important thing at this point, John, is you must make sure that your parapsis is above 70,000.
Okay.
If it's below 70,000,
you're fucked.
You will hit. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to hit the upper edge of the atmosphere, and it's going to slow you down. And when it slows you down, then you're going to get slower and slower, and then you're going to hit. So the upper end of the troposphere is at 70,000. I believe that's what it is. So that's where you want to be above that in order to be in orbit. But we are now in orbit. Now, just for the sake of prettiness, first of all, we are now in orbit. So our little spaceship is high above the world. Planet Earth is blue. Planet Kerbal is blue, and there's nothing I can do. So remember how we have... I'm going to actually turn off our STS because remember how we have a
major Jebediah
limited amount of electric charge, right? So we don't want to use that up if we don't have to.
Yeah.
Because all the while that it's on, it's going to be draining power. We can also, if we want to, do an IVA where we can see this is what Jebediah sees.
Absolutely nothing.
Pretty much. He's got nada. Oh, what a glamorous life to be an astronaut. So we're coming up on an hour, but I'm going to show you one more thing before we get done.
Okay.
So our orbit is stinky, right?
Yeah.
It's big on this side and smaller on this side.
Yeah.
Okay. So we would like to straighten out our orbit a little bit.
Okay.
Do you know how to do that?
No.
Okay, I will tell you how to do that.
I figured you would.
Okay. So the thing about orbits is this. These 2 points, your apoapsis and your periapsis, I want you to think about them. Think about it like this. If your spaceship is sitting at one of those and starts doing a thing, right, it's going to affect the other one. So if you are at your apoapsis and you start accelerating in the direction of the orbit that you're in, it's going to push out the periapsis.
Yes.
On the other hand, if you go to the apoapsis and you thrust in the opposite direction, it's going to shrink the periapsis. So what we want to do is we want to come up here to where the apoapsis is, and we want to thrust up a little bit in order to even out our orbit, right?
Okay.
But the question becomes, how do we know what direction to point our ship, right? Because we're in an orbit, and we get out of Jebediah Kerbal. I mean, we can kind of freehand it here, but that's going to be the next thing on our nav ball. So do you see this little yellow circular icon?
Yeah.
That is basically the direction that we're going. That is prograde, right? So if we thrust prograde, it means we are going in the direction we are going faster. Right. I'm explaining this. It's making sense?
Yes.
Words are coming out of my mouth. Okay, so if we thrust in this direction, that's prograde. If, on the other hand, we turn all the way around to the other side, we've got one of these, and I don't know if you can see it, but this one has an X through it.
Yeah.
That's retrograde. That's basically thrusting directly away from where we are, the direction that we are going right now. Very important to know the two of these. These are going to be the basis for just about all of your orbit, space travel, things like that. For example, we're not going to do a thing right now, but and we can't actually set a course. But if we go down to the periapsis, right, and we thrust, like let's say that the moon over here didn't move at all, and we thrust nothing but prograde, this apoapsis is just going to expand, right?
Correct.
And eventually, you're going to be on an orbit which you could set to intercept with the moon. And when we go to the moon, that's what we're going to do. So in the meantime, you know what? I'll demonstrate this, but I'm not going to be all super fancy with it. Now, there are a couple of other icons here, and for the time being, you don't really need to worry about that. But, okay, let's get to, there's our retrograde and prograde. Stop. Go. Go. Now, you're going to actually do a lot of stuff in Kerbal Space Program just sitting here. So we're kind of close to the apoapsis, so I can show you. I'm not going to apply full thrust. I'm just going to thrust up a little bit, and you'll be able to see the exact thing that it does with the periapsis. See? It gets a little bit bigger.
Yeah, okay, I see it.
And now we're at 97 and 86. See, let's do it again. So there's our periapsis. And let's go put it right in the middle of this thing and thrust a little bit. See how it gets bigger?
Yeah.
So then I got 91 and 97. So that's not as much of a huge clusterfuck as the one we had before. Having a completely circular orbit comes in real handy when you start to do things like try to match orbits, right, by having a good starting place. And with that, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to go up to our apoapsis, thrust full retrograde, and go back to Kerbin, and we will have done the go into orbit, basic rocket building 101, and a bunch of terms and things that you can now irritate your friends by saying to them, and they'll be like, you are a nerd. I tell you what, John, as much as people don't like listening to me talk about Dark Souls,
Yeah.
I can't get anybody to listen to me talk about Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, I get it.
I'll go to a party,
I think it's interesting.
and I'll be like, oh, man, I did this. I matched orbits, and I, like, thrusted. I did an EVA mission and got this guy, and they're just like, what are you talking about? I brought my friend over here. Okay, so you can guess what's going to happen as we thrust retrograde at the apoapsis, right?
Yeah, it's going to get smaller.
It's going to pull this in until eventually the periapsis disappears entirely, and we now have a projected splashdown.
Over water.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you what, before we finish here, one of the other things that we can do is the two pink icons that are in here.
Okay.
This one. These are basically, there's one that looks like this, and there's one that has an X, just like the prograde and retrograde. Those are going to rotate your orbit. So allow me to demonstrate. If I do this, if I thrust in this direction, see how it moves it?
Oh, okay.
So I'm actually going to flip over to, I don't remember what the exact names of these are, and I'm very, very sorry. Here's the opposite one. So let's go ahead and now that I know that I'm coming down, I'm going to just burn the rest of my fuel, making sure that I can get into the ocean. Now you can see that it is thrusting us out a little bit. So if we really wanted to be real sneaky about it, if we put this halfway between retrograde and that, then we should be able to, well, no, that was a little bit too much retrograde, to adjust a little bit. So, all right. Well, I think we're now coming down on land, but fuck it. We did our best. We got in orbit. Let's go home. Now, as you level up, one of the things that your Kerbin is able to do, you see how Jebediah kept getting experience points.
Yeah.
As Jebediah gets more and more experience points, he will be able to... there's going to be a whole list of things that come up here where you can automatically target prograde, retrograde targets, the pink ones. I forget what they're called.
Because he'll know what they are.
Because he knows what they are. So let's go ahead and just warp and see once we get down below about, I believe it's what, 60? Oh, shit. Oh, no. One of the biggest things about coming in is that you definitely want to make sure that you're always pointed in the retrograde direction, because that's the direction that the atmosphere is going to be hitting you as you come down. So let's go here. And things starting to heat up. There they go. So I'm going to just pull this down and
there you go.
adjust it a little bit. So as you know, as before, arrow braking when you're doing it on a much larger, a much more horizontal incline, you're giving yourself so much longer to slow down before you hit the ground that it's way easier to do than just going straight up and straight down again. So let's keep going. See, because right now we're running at 2,000 meters per second, 2,200 meters per second. So we
so happy.
Really. I kind of wish there was a mod to make this window way bigger, so you could just see him like, yeah, fucking fire! I love it. So we can come down, and it's worth noting that going into orbit is the first step towards doing everything. There's literally not a thing, well, outside of flying space planes.
Yeah.
But that procedure of going up into orbit, it only gets easier as time goes on. The first few times that I did it, I don't know if they made it easier in the newest update, John, but it used to be I had a devil of a time. Like, even as I got some of the advanced rocketry parts, I would just be like, how the hell do I even do this? But now it's a lot easier, so I don't know.
Maybe you just got that much better at it.
But I didn't play the game for like months. So you can see now, you remember when we were like, we were at like 2,000 meters and we were going 400 meters per second. Like now we've got a lot more leeway for coming down. That's the nice thing about falling inside of the atmosphere, right? Is that you've got a lot of wind to slow you down, essentially. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and just position here, time warp it a little bit. Tell you what, we've got why even chance fate. I'm just going to go down.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Explosion.
It seems like before, John, this latest update, that there was always a here we go. Yeah, let's go. There was always a chance, like when you crashed, that that you couldn't restart. That like once you hit a certain level, it's like, oh well, you're just going to crash. And it seems like it less so. I haven't run into that as much this time. Board. All right, let's pick him up.
I appreciate you got out on Kerbal.
No, that's the thing, is that I got 2 science from doing that, because you can get science just by walking around on Kerbal and doing stuff. So that's it for now. We've got a fair amount of funds. Jebediah Kermit is level 1, which means he can now automatically go prograde and retrograde. This has been the Super Awesome Video Game Show. I have a lot more to say about Kerbal Space Program.
So if you want more of these, let us know.
Yeah, vote with your clicks. Vote in the comments. Let us know what you think. Thumbs up or thumbs down. You know, if it's a bunch of thumbs down, I totally understand. Kerbal Space Program's already been done to death, but I feel like it's a great game that is really rewarding. So let us know what you think, and thank you so much for watching.